Welcome back, everybody, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters. Coming up next, we got ETC up against Purple. It's going to be a clash between a player from the USA and a player from Canada. It's kind of been a hot minute since we've seen Canada really flex itself onto the America scene ever since Language Hacker's performance in the World Championships.
That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was like a sarcastic.
Okay. I see. I couldn't tell, Dan. You kept a straight face. No inflection.
Yeah.
Just straight delivery.
That's what it's all about.
You're so confusing, man.
I don't feel like our caster chemistry is quite back to what it was back in the Legendary series, but we'll get there very slowly.
It's not. See, that's sarcasm.
Let's take a look at the deck lists as I ignore TJ as the orders of my producer. He's bringing Tempo Rogue with Chef Nomi.
Oh, yeah.
So it is an aggressive variant. In fact, it is so aggressive that Tempo Rogue that ETC brought, he anticipated other rogues being in the event, so he thought that he was going to bring Wisp and be very clever. Wisp is primarily as a zero-mana activator for pretty much half your deck. It's like the combo activator for Miscreant, for Raiding Party. Sometimes you need like the SI7 agent, or even just getting like the Eviscerate out of your hand. Those kinds of combo activators, are really useful. And sometimes, even in pinch scenarios, you're like, well, I need to dump my hand right before I get to the Myers Unstable element and really go for it. It's been very interesting, to say the least, to watch like Wisp kind of weave itself in and out of decks in the past.
Yeah. And just has kind of the pretty standard rogue package outside of that, with the exception of the Bloodstone Corsair. But taking a look at Purple, another Bomb Warrior player. Now, one thing that's not going to help him out in this matchup is that in his main deck, he does have Archivist Elysiana. And he only removes it in his tertiary deck, which he has Big Game Hunter and Super Collider. So he's pretty much just stuck with the Archivist Elysiana, no matter which way you slice it throughout this series, which could be a liability, being stuck in his hand for the majority of the game.
It definitely could be. We'll see if that Warrior ends up coming into play here for... sorry, not the Warrior. The whether or not
it's going to come into play, Dan. I guarantee it.
We'll see just how much these bombs will come into play for the Warrior, as I think Bomb Warrior against Rogue struggles a little bit more than the Control variant, only because Control has that many more anti-aggro tools and maybe life gain mechanisms with only one weapons project, for example, to stop the Waggle pick and also to gain that 6 armor. A little bit of an uphill climb for Purple. I definitely, in my opinion, give the slight edge to the Warrior still. Because even if ETC gets that Chef Nomi Myers Unstable element, that's where the bombs really come into play and really mess up Rogue if they can't win in the next like turn or two.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still just in the camp that Rogue beats everything.
Okay. Because you're a Rogue fanboy?
I'm also a Warrior fanboy, so it's conflicting.
You were a Warrior fanboy. You don't really play Warrior anymore. In fact, you said on the record that you don't like Warrior just like a few hours ago with Admirable. And I was like, I still love Warrior.
Did I?
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even know what comes out of my mouth, Dan. What did I just say? Who knows? But
sometimes you don't know.
I would give a 52 to 48 favorite to ETC.
Okay. I give Warrior kind of like a 55 edge against the Rogue.
Okay.
I can totally see why you would feel like Rogue would have the edge, though, because sometimes, like, with Bomb Warrior, you're so busy curving out that you just, like, don't have time to play defense. And then, like, it's like Rogue versus any mid-range deck. The only thing is that I feel like when you know the deck list so intimately, it feels like you have a completely different mulligan plan, and also maybe even a different turns 1 through 4 plan, to the point where maybe that gives the Rogue the ability to counterplay even more effectively. Like, if I know it's not Control Warrior, or if I know they don't have weapon removal, or if I know that they do have weapon removal, maybe I play this way instead.
Yeah. And also because his secondary deck has High Spear and Togwaggle, Harrison Jones, Greenskin, and Cable Rat, whereas Purple is pretty much on his primary deck, right, through and through. So ETC has a flex option for games 2 and 3, whereas Purple doesn't seem like he does. So I think that's a little bit where more of an edge comes in.
That's fair.
But ETC, this is his secondary deck. So basically just more greed. Harrison, Greenskin, the High Spear and Togwaggle, and the Evil Cable Rat, as well as a Sprint on top of it. he removed Wisp, Bloodsoul Corsair, Double Sap, and Life Drinker, which are usually pretty weak cards against Warrior, all things considered. Just kind of everything kind of works. We saw Hunter Ace earlier on in the day take a win with this deck list against just a standard control warrior against his teammate Yarla. I really liked the way he played that. It just seemed like he had so many options at every step of the way. The one thing that he is missing is the Togwaggle scheme, which kind of gives him one extra plan. But he also has a bunch of ways to generate lackeys and a bunch of ways to generate spells from Ethereal Lackey, which means he can get Togwaggle scheme. So it's just a very flexible deck when you build it like this and more greedy.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when you evaluate it, I think I can see where you're coming from, TJ, where Rogue can do really well against Warrior. In fact, we saw that earlier in other regions as well. I think when you saw some of the other rogues that were teching against the Warrior, they ended up faring very well against them in the late stages of the game with like the triple Leroys and the Togwaggle scheme type shenanigans.
This is Purple's secondary deck. This weird amalgamation of a Warrior deck. Mojo Master Zihi, Sephorian Bomber, Double Augmented Elec, and Baleful Banker added. He gets rid of Eternium Rover, Execute Weapons Project, and Brawl from his primary deck. This deck I don't think he's going to play.
Yeah.
It's much more aggressive. It looks like it's targeted at really greedy control decks, maybe like secondary Mechathune decks or other Bomb Warriors to have a little bit more aggression. But it seems like that having that as a secondary deck and having an anti-mage tertiary deck, it might hurt Purple just slightly. But all the players that brought Bomb Warrior said one of the main reasons why they did it was because they were expecting a lot of Rogue.
Yeah.
And potentially Nomi Priest.
Right. Which is why I feel like the Warrior's still in a really good spot, regardless of it. But the Rogues, of course, they just still have the opportunity to run over because our preparation raiding party with Waggle Pick and Pirates is still such an enormously powerful package that sometimes you just win solely by the fact that your opponent plays normal cards, but you just have too much momentum to stop, and they can't answer all the threats. You know, when Waggle Pick comes out with 2 of the Dread Corsairs, and then you leverage your damage with even more like Captain Greenskin and more and follow up with the bounces, it gets really insane. And then you mix in the fact that Evil Miscreant, a big cornerstone of this deck, to be able to give it a bunch of combo, gives it flexibility in terms of how fast or slow it wants to play, and that it also even can combat on the board decently well with all the lackeys and transforming it with the Witchy Lackey.
Also, it's double Shadow Step, which is not often the case for Rogue. Sometimes they cut one because they have the Waggle Pick effect. So they just use one copy for Leroy or for Evil Miscreant. So, we could go back and forth. But one other fun thing to note, ETC announced, I think like an hour ago, you said, that he joined Fate to Karma for their competitive team.
Yeah, last year Fate to Karma had Board Control and Fino and a bunch of other people, and they since have moved on to T1, which definitely left a big hole in FTK's roster. And they primarily are filled with a bunch of streamers first on FTK. You're looking at like Ali and Slissa, who were in the previous event for the Dalaran heist. They don't really have that many people in GM anymore now that most of the players had moved off. So it felt like a nice opportunity for them to grab a player that's emerging but wasn't really signed by anybody.
Sure, yeah. And ETC is probably one of the most unproven players. He was one of the top point earners last year in the HCT circuit. He was like number 6 for the year, which is very impressive for a player that we didn't really see too much at tour stops, at playoffs, at championships. So really had those ladder performances and looking to kind of prove himself. And he joined us on Thursday when we were doing rehearsals because we needed players to stand in to allow us to have practice with Skype interviews. And it was funny because we mock interviewed him. And I'm pretty sure, Dan, you weren't even here for this, so this is also a story for you. We had a stand-in for you because you had a call to take. But he said that he was nervous for his fake interview because it was the first time that he'd ever been on camera for an interview, which is such a weird thing because all of these players at some point in their careers have been interviewed on camera, but ETC has not been. So
He's a true dark horse with this.
he is. Yeah, that's correct.
No one knows how well he'll do. He got in solely based off of being a top point earner. And, you know, ETC hasn't really like gotten a lot of time in the spotlight. However, his story is really heartwarming. You know, I got a chance to sit down and get to know him in Taiwan. ETC is, I think, our oldest competitor. He's in his late 30s.
Yeah.
He also has a whole family and a full-time job in construction. And it's like, construction is not an easy job. Construction contract labor, that is like one of the hardest jobs out there, in my opinion. Because, you know, my dad did a bunch of architecture, so we were constantly around contractors. Like, that's just a lot of labor, even if you're not necessarily the one physically lifting it. It's just many hours and very tiring and dangerous. So this guy comes home from a very long, arduous day and decides to grind Hearthstone from one grinding to another and gets to the top 10 points of the region and qualifies for the Grandmasters based off that criteria. I talked to him in Taiwan, and I was like, so what's the motivation? He's like, well, I've always been a huge fan of World of Warcraft, and I've always wanted to be some kind of pro gamer, but I never knew I could. And now that I'm in my 30s, I kind of gave up on that dream. I played Hearthstone for fun. And then I was like, well, then what does your wife think now that you have like 2 kids? One's like 8, one's like 4. And he's like, yeah, well, she's really supportive of it. Because we met through World of Warcraft, so she always knew how much this was for a dream for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's really heartwarming. And then we went shopping for his kid, and he bought a bunch of cool Lego toys for them. And then he lost his wallet in the taxi. So he got all the bad luck out of the way.
Good.
And now the good luck can begin.
I can relate to ETC in a way. A lot of his story is similar, except for the fact that
here we go. TJ finds any way to insert his kid into the conversation here.
I rarely talk about my son. I'm offended by that, Dan. Most people don't even know.
Yeah, it's not plastered over your social media or anything.
It's not even. I think the last time I tweeted a picture of my son was more than a month ago.
Oh, you're so brave.
I know. I'm not even going to finish my story. That was mean, Dan.
All right, I apologize.
Nope, it's too late now.
I think I have definitely made TJ a little upset there. I like your son. He's cool.
I agree, but I'm still upset.
All right, EDC.
He's cooler than you'll ever be.
I don't disagree with that. ETC is. I wanted to follow the joke, but I think we need to finally talk about it.
We have a rogue. We should be talking about it already.
First couple turns here in this game, ETC didn't have much to go for, but he has that double evil miscreant, which allows him to play slower. So I think a lot of rogues kind of get into this mindset of need to play like the Dread Corsair and the Waggle Pig and push tempo, but increasing his options is definitely a viable route when you have double miscreant with 2 Waggle Pigs. You can even just out-resource the warrior straight up.
Which is even more the case with Bombworm, and even more the case with Purple's list, because he doesn't have Acolytes of Pain.
Right, so if ETC goes for like the Waggle Pick now, Purple doesn't really have much to stop that. Doesn't have any like weapon destruction. And then ETC can bounce the Miscreant. Can bounce anything else that he deems worthy. Armor Smith helps him even go even longer into the game.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually. Makes Warpath awkward. This is not the best brawl. Also Dynomatic, because of Armorsmith's high health total, isn't even that great of a clear. So Armorsmith is what is
Purple's laughing because he knows that this is such a ridiculous scenario where like
is that a laugh? Purple is the biggest troll I have ever met in my entire life.
Well, Purple is the Acolyte of Pain. Like, when something looks really painful, he kind of laughs it through and almost looks like he enjoys it.
Yeah. That's true. He's also just a large troll.
I don't disagree. I still think Dynomatic here is the play. I don't think you care too much about the armor count.
I mean, it is just kind of weird. Like, you're damaging his board, and then he waggle picks and bounces a minion, and then replays it for full health.
Like, you're happy if he bounces an Armor Smith, though, as opposed to like a lackey.
I suppose, but honestly, it seems like Dynomatic is...
So the other option is to Shield Slam.
Yeah. Well, he wants to hit this Dread Corsair 3 times. Okay. That's a good outcome.
Yeah. Well, now ETC has the option to go for the Evil Miscreant setup here.
Yeah, he could play Ethereal Lackey, Evil Miscreant, then swing with the Waggle pick. So he has a chance to get Evil Miscreant back and has a chance to get Ethereal Lackey back.
Yeah, he does have a way to also even activate through backstab first, but Ethereal Lackey just seems overall better. Pilfer, Vendetta, or Shiv all kind of just deal a little bit of damage here. Vendetta doesn't do much to... Well, Vendetta is nice if he had the ability to activate it.
Yeah.
So many options.
Interesting.
I guess Shiv just to cycle through.
Yeah. He has the option now to backstab Shiv, the 3/4, and then swing with the weapon. For now, maybe ATC just wants to go as wide as possible.
Blood and plunder.
Oh, wow.
So he took the risk of going with the Dread Corsair to have the chance of having an extra 3/3 on board. He said, I'll take the risk of playing the Dread Corsair. I'll take the risk of bouncing it back because if I hit something else, I have an extra 3/3 on board. Because if he swings, he can't play it afterwards because it's too expensive because he's giving up his weapon. So I understand the play. I don't know if it's worth the risk.
Of course.
Because bouncing back the Evil Miscreant or the Ethereal Lackey, much, much better.
Yeah, I think I like guaranteeing the bounce a little bit more because of how much value you get off of it. It increases your chance of having failure rate.
But putting more pressure, having the chance to put more pressure, also relevant.
The payoff was huge if he was able to get it.
Let's say he plays Dread Corsair and then bounces back Evil Miscreant anyway. That's like, oh, ideal.
Well, Purple very openly talking, like basically showing Warpath face up at this point, but not swinging that way.
Ooh. Deadly Poison, Eviscerate, both essentially 4 damage.
Yeah, Eviscerate is more guaranteed because Deadly Poison can
be removed by...
get removed.
Yeah, only 1 weapons project in Purple's main deck, but he also has Harrison Jones.
I might take Fan of Knives if I feel like damage isn't really getting there. His hand does have a lot of damage through the Waggle pick and the Life Drinkers. That's 12 total.
Oh, another Life Drinker.
Okay, had I known that he's gonna pick up another Life Drinker, I probably would take more damage. See, finally getting Purple down to 29. And Purple has the Warpath option. He also has the Dynomatic option right now. A little bit of a punish for not swinging last turn, because if he did, Dynomatic would clear.
Yep.
But, of course, he was holding on to this Warpath in case ETC developed anything, right? If he developed, like, mid-sized minions or the other Dread Corsair, he'd be able to Warpath everything around. So by equipping and halting, he actually stopped ETC from developing, because ETC is smart enough to read into that. You want to hear something else kind of funny, TJ?
What?
In Taiwan, every player was talking about how it's like so obvious that everyone's going to bring Rogue for the first week of Grandmaster. And then ETC was the only player who's like, no, actually, I think Warrior is probably like the deck that I should bring, blah, 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 like talking about it. And this thing's the exact opposite.
They were all baiting each other.
They were all mind gaming.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Got some damage now.
Yeah, so Waggle Picks plus the Shadow Steps on the Life Drinkers. It's a lot of damage coming through. You might think, okay, 3 damage here, 3 damage there. That's kind of what I was like saying. If you knew that the next card was Life Drinker, especially if you knew a Shadow Step, I probably would change the Phantom Knives, obviously, to Eviscerate
It is
at that point.
20 damage over 2 turns.
Blood and plunder.
But he decides to go for the Waggle Pick on the Dynamatic instead. Smart for the threat of Ziliax. This point for ETC,
Yeah.
about pushing face damage, and no weapon removal for Purple drawn yet. He only has the 2 in his deck, Harrison Jones, plus the 1 copy of Weapons Project. And that's going to start to become not so relevant because this is the second Waggle Pick.
Yeah, I wonder if Purple even wants to utilize some of his removal because he's got 3 pieces of removal. That said, ETC is holding 5 cards, so Purple might want to hold on to Brawl. Beryllium Nullifier, Mega Devastator, Bulldozer. Mega Devastator, definitely the best, but I don't think the Omega works the way you think it does with Coin. Yeah, I like this better. Beryllium Nullifier on the Eternium Rover. You can't sap that.
Nope.
That's going to be 2 armor every time it takes damage.
This is weird. So now ETC's best game plan is to hope he draws Leroy?
Well, yeah, he can't play Phantom Knives without giving his opponent life right now.
Yeah. He can push 7 this turn, bring Purple down to 15. And then play his more expensive Life Drinker and Shadow Step it to put him down to 12. And he has 6 damage lined up the next turn. Plus 7 would be the dagger. So,
Yeah, that sets up for a Leroy opportunity.
yes, but not that well. And giving him armor.
Oh my god.
My.
Hold on. That is a new ball game here. Now he can probably dump his hand and play Myra's.
Too soon.
It's a lot of drinking. Armor gain here is super clutch, being able to shield slam this other 3/3. Purple just trying to hang in there to prevent ETC from running him over.
Yep.
And one way or another, we're coming to the conclusion of this game.
Oh, he plays the Omega Devastator too.
I like it. I think he needs tempo.
Well, let's say a big Edwin comes out. He can execute it, but then he has to trade in one of these big minions to do so. I don't know. Maybe. Sure.
ETC has SI7 agent. Maybe he takes it slow instead. Instead of rushing out the Myras, it's like a backstab SI dagger Bloodsteel Corsair turn.
He could do all that besides the dagger and still Myras.
That's also true. I don't like having the Blood Corsair as a one of compared to another copy of a card.
I wonder.
He can also Shadow Step the SI and then Myra's to dump more of his cards. So like you would SI the 4/3, Shadow Step the SI, and then Blood Corsair, and then Myra's and stable. Oh wow. Okay, I was not anticipating a sap on one of the best battle cry minions.
Wait a second.
Bombs. Okay. Chef Nomi. Another bomb. Another Shadow Step.
Oh well. So outside of the Leroy Shadow, okay, it's a reasonable Myra.
He doesn't want to take damage from the Mega Devastator either. I think he realized that he might draw his bombs and then he'd be down to 17 with 8 power facing up. This was like a play for him to have the maximum amount of life to play with after the Myras. Makes sense to me. Purple's mind. I think he might want to just maximize his life total here.
Yeah, he was hoping to pick up Ziliax from the Town Crier. You can see a little wince from him as he picked up Militia Commander.
Now he knows the Chef Nomi threat is very real.
Yep.
And this was very well mapped out by ETC if it ends up panning out that way.
Yeah, he plays Nomi this turn. Brawl is likely to have a 6/6 survive. If it does, and he daggers to face this turn, Leroy Shadow Step Leroy the following turn is lethal.
Right. Assuming Purple's not able to gain more life, but
yeah.
behind that.
And I don't think ETC has time to go Nomi Shadow Step and try and go for a second Nomi should a brawl happen.
Another sap.
Yeah, I think he needs to make sure that he fits in the dagger up.
Right, because he wants to deal 2 damage over 2 turns.
Yep. And I guess he can Shadow Step Nomi because he has the second one for Leroy regardless.
Right. He can't squeeze in Leroy and 2 Shadow Steps at the same turn.
And by sapping, he also increases the amount of time that he has. So this is really well navigated.
Oh my goodness! Hold on. Two saps were just used. Not that you could really sap the Eternian Rover anyways.
Unity. Precision.
Ooh. That is a big time draw here for Purple. Now, where do we attack?
No.
Do you attack face and then brawl? Do you attack and then just a Mega Devastator and hope that you can? You know, that's too optimistic.
If he attacking face is obviously is the best, right?
Yes,
Because
I like attack
he
face.
He can't dagger in. He's dead to the fatigue. So he has to trade in 2 6/6s. So he would make the trade for you.
Yes, I like this. Assuming that there's no way for him to, like, you know, there's no Fan of Knives, right? There's no, like, way for him to get that extra damage in.
Yeah. So he's going to heal back up to full, but then take 18.
And then he needs to trade into everything to prevent Purple from getting any kind of
Any damage.
Lethal out.
Yeah.
And then has to win with the next push.
Which he should.
Because Purple will gain 2 armor. He'll go back up to full life at 32 plus -6. Sorry, 35 -6.
Oh no, he's going to be off.
-6. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, he is. He's going to be off. Because he only pushes 12 this turn. I'd calculate that he push 18. Brawl's only going to leave 1 6/6 behind.
He's on 2 fatigue damage.
He's on 2.
Still has another turn.
Do you prefer something burning?
Honestly, I think you don't play Nomi there.
Too soon.
You force the brawl, you play Nomi the next turn. You have to.
Oh, that's lethal.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Oh, so close. That was...
Oh,
back and
Anthros
forth.
in the brawl.
Hey, come on. man. And he, I was like, and he wins the brawl?
Yeah, so, wait, no, he's taking 3 fatigue damage the next turn, right? Or 2. If he's taking 3, no, then he has to play Nomi that turn because he has to win on the following turn. So no, ETC did play that correctly. He actually navigated those last turns very well. Just the Ziliax just was a massive swing.
Is it BM, or was Purple doing the honorable thing saying, I had you anyways, by showing the brawl?
I think it's I had you anyways. That's honorable. That's not BM, that's honorable.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Or it depends how you look at it. I don't know.
I feel like it's ambiguous when it comes to a player like Purple.
Yeah, because if he brawls, only 1 6/6 survives, and he doesn't have nearly enough damage. He dies to 2 turns fatigue, 3 then 4 since he's at 7.
All right.
So no matter which way you slice it, yeah, he got him.
Well, that's just the first game of this best of 3. ETC going to look to try to make the mark for the Rogues in the Americas. We'll find out what happens when we come back to the Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Welcome to Hearthstone Masters. Today, we're going to share one of the biggest changes coming to Hearthstone in 2019, an entirely new competitive format called Specialist. Specialist will be the default competitive format for Hearthstone Masters. From online Masters qualifiers to live Masters Tour events to the pinnacle of competition, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Ready to learn how the new Specialist format works? Let's dive right in. In this new competitive format, players select 3 30-card decks to bring to a specialist tournament. The catch? All decks must be from the same class. In this regard, Specialist is a major departure from most other competitive formats. Amongst every player's 3 Specialist decks, one is designated as the primary deck. The player's other 2 decks are designated as secondary and tertiary decks. There are no special limitations placed on a player's primary deck aside from regular Hearthstone deck construction rules. However, a player's secondary and tertiary decks must share at least 25 cards in common with their primary deck. In other words, secondary and tertiary decks must mirror the primary deck with up to 5 cards swapped out. It is important to point out that duplicate cards count when comparing to a primary deck. For example, if you want to include 2 copies of Twilight Drake in your secondary deck, and there are no copies of Twilight Drake in your primary deck, then you must spend 2 swaps to include both cards. Unique or not, if a card isn't in your primary deck, it counts towards the 5-card difference limit. A player's primary deck is important for another reason. Whenever a new match starts, both its players must begin by piloting their primary deck. Only after the first game concludes can you choose to swap into your secondary or tertiary deck. You do not announce which of your decks you will be using in the next game, and you do not have to swap. After every game, this process repeats, allowing players to swap or stay until the match concludes. Importantly, you can swap to any of your decks between games, primary, secondary, or tertiary, including returning to your primary deck if you have previously swapped out of it. And those are all the rules for Specialist, Hearthstone's new official competitive format. So what are you waiting for? Get out there and start brewing your own primary, secondary, and tertiary decks to get a jump start on the new format and innovate like the pros.
Let the battle begin!
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters for the Americas region. We are trying to find out if whether or not this rogue can beat down the warrior. We have ETC, the lone rogue, in the Americas for week number 1, going up against Purple. Purple's warrior has prevailed, but by the narrowest of margins. That looks really scary where the chef nobody came out in the very last seconds there.
Yeah, it did. And Purple is going to stick to his primary deck, as I had mentioned, was pretty much his only choice against the Rogue. And also, as we predicted, ETC is going to move over to his secondary deck, which we highlighted before the match, that has the Heistburn Togwaggle, the Harrison Jones, the Captain Greenskin, the Evil Cable Rat, and the Sprint. So it's just greedier. It cuts Wisp, Bloodsoak Corsair, Saps, and Life Drinker. So definitely a much heavier package.
He took out the Wisp, though, TJ.
Oh, no.
How can he survive? How does he manage?
How does he ever activate his Evil Miscreant against Warrior if he's not on the coin? It's just impossible. I don't think he can overcome this. Much better situation to start things off for Purple, I feel. Does have the Dr. Broom Mad Genius. That is a boon. A big one at that. ETC missing preparation, missing backstab, has the Evil Miscreant. Dagger, punch him.
Yep, pretty straightforward, I think, here from ATC in the next couple turns here. Unless he picks up a combo activator, seems like he's just going to be trying to curve out to the best of his ability. Rogue hasn't really changed at all over the years. In that sometimes its draws defeat itself. You don't have to worry too much about beating it.
Doesn't happen as often anymore. But yes.
Yeah, it doesn't happen as often anymore, largely because they've been going lower curve. In the past, Rogue used to kind of beat itself because it had a lot of like 4 and 5 mana minions that sometimes made things really awkward to play. and you needed spells to really tie everything in together. But then sometimes you draw only spells and like no minions. Like you'd get like the prep backstab hands, and you have nothing else really to play.
Yeah.
And so like you have to balance it. Obviously, having all minions like ETC, not necessarily like the thing that you always want, and you don't want obviously all the spells either. I mean, the way I'm painting it makes it sound like Rogue's an inconsistent deck. It's really not. It's just that once in a while you get the extreme ends of the spectrum. And it happens a little bit more frequently with Rogue than you might think.
Wow. Wow, Dan, I didn't know you strongly believed that you think Rogue is the most inconsistent class in Hearthstone.
It really is. Although, I gotta say, the double sap in the deck list for ETC, he cut both of them. Sap's not that particularly good against Warrior, so I can totally understand that. And then he cut a Blood Corsair and a Life Drinker. I don't know if those are really high up in the cards either, so I like kind of the way ETC is approaching it through like the anti-Warrior tech. Seems like he should be fine. He's also choosing to not play Dread Corsair on curve because he knows that there's a possibility it just dies anyways. However, he doesn't have any established board tempo or presence, so he's going to play from behind now.
I feel like setting up the SI7 agent last turn would have been completely fine.
And plunder.
Just to have something on board. Yeah, sure, it's gonna die, but if you don't play, if you never play minions because you're afraid that they're gonna die, then what are you even doing playing Hearthstone?
Defend the gates.
That's all I'm saying, Dan.
Yeah,
I know that was a little aggressive. I apologize, but
it's totally fine.
I don't know what to do with myself. That there's not warrior on both sides.
Yeah, I think ETC has the right idea here. Playing conservative with your resources seems like it's fairly important. Fairly important there.
Light the fuses.
Oh yeah, it's the idea that lines up really well into Dynomatic there.
But it's not a yeah. Purple saying that's an error because by daggering into the 1/1 Town Crier, Purple would have to make that trade into the Evil Miscreant anyway to guarantee Dynomatic.
Yeah.
But it's not always that he's going to have Dynomatic. And if he
Yeah.
doesn't, then you're going to want to be efficient with your damage.
This guy's toast.
So Purple just trying to throw a little edge into this matchup. Bully around the new guy.
I guess so. ETC is, if you've played ladder, you've probably encountered him at the highest ends of Legends, so I don't think it really matters that much.
Yeah, if he's spending most of his time on ladder, he's used to being BM'd.
Dr. Boom Mad Genius coming out here onto the board, and Purple has the ability to just fight back with the rush mechanic now and should be making ETC's life a lot more difficult here.
Yeah.
So I think something to consider is whether or not Purple has the mech minions to actually back it up. His hand is like 2 brawls, a shield block, a shield slam, and execute. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good one. Just helps make the board resilient.
Yep.
It is still weak to a Warpath.
Though Purple does not have one. But honestly, there was not really much of a way that he could try and play around it. Because he can't control the outcome. But Ziliak's still kind of annoying, to say the least. Dynomatic, especially with Dr. Boom, pretty much always good against non-warriors. Except for Mech Hunter.
Light the fuses.
Doesn't clear off the SI7 agent, but he's still able to get the rush in and pop off the Divine Shield.
Yeah.
And even the fact that he even had the Dynamatic is still nice to clear off all those things. Raiding Party.
Raiding Party is pretty much the best draw in ETC's deck right now. He did not want to have to pull the trigger on Myras this early on in the game. Unless, of course, you have Chef Nomi already, then you can pull the trigger on Myras. But he wants to be able to guarantee that he draws like his second Evil Miscreant, his Ticebreaker Togwaggle. He wants to have more consistency of damage, and in that case, Wagglepick just becomes that much more impactful. Now, Purple does have Harrison Jones, but not the greatest. And ETC thinking if he wants to do it now.
I think the longer you wait, the more chance they have for weapon destruction. But at the same time, saving it doesn't exactly do anything either. So, like, I think you want to pressure. Your hand's kind of telling you to go all in. You have 3 things that just add to the damage count. And honestly, bouncing back, even Zilliax isn't the worst thing in the world if your opponent forces weapon destruction. Oh, wow. Dread Corsair just keeps coming back to the hand no matter what he does.
Sure does.
He can still play his hand, though. He's got Dagger with Captain Greenskin, which makes the weapon to 2 attack, and that makes Dread Corsair into a free minion. And with Backstab is clearing the Harrison Jones as well.
Yeah, he could use the health to clear off this Harrison Jones instead of trying to do something else. Starting to piece together damage with Myers in hand for gas. He's got Eviscerate, he's got Leroy, he's got another Shadow Step left in the deck. He's got a lot of damage packed in still. So if he starts to make a push here, then Purple could start to be in trouble. He does have a lot of removal. He's got Dr. Boom going. So a lot of ways to fend off. Just
is he going to use the Pirate to clear off instead, or is he just going, yeah. I think he knows he's going to play Myra's, right? So wants to protect his life total.
okay, makes sense.
Yeah, like if he takes 5 extra damage, that's 1 less potential turn that he has to make Myra's into something huge.
Yeah, that's really smart. It also just gets the card out of his hand. So he has 1 more mana to spend on doing other things next turn if he were to Myra's. So. Unfortunately, this board lines up perfectly into Kaboom plus Dynamatic, but
Yeah.
21 life.
Generally, Kaboom is not considered to be a very good hero power, but sometimes, every now and then, it feels like it does amazing stuff.
And now the choice.
Well, he could go for a Raiding Party and collect, like, a couple of cards here.
No.
It's nothing amazing.
He collects a Dread Corsair and a Wagglepick.
Right. It's not amazing.
Yeah. So I think
It's just like a normal 3-mana draw 2 cards.
Yes, but then he doesn't Myra's that turn because he has no mana to play whatever he gets from it.
Right.
And he doesn't Wagglepick that turn either because of the efficiency of damage.
Well, he has the Chef Nomi. That's the important thing.
And Leroy and Shadow Step. So he has 2 Shadow Steps and a Leroy.
Yeah.
But he picks up Heisper and Togwaggle with no way to generate lockies. He picks up 2 Preps with no spells.
Right. He has, and Purple has 2 Brawls ready to go.
Yeah.
That said, this Wrench Caliber has to look kind of appetizing for Purple. It's 10 damage over with 2 attacks. That's 16. Your opponent's gonna be taking 3 fatigue damage over the course of 2 turns. So that's 19. You need to find a way to get to 10 more before the Chef Nomis come out.
Skater Boy.
Skater Bot. Don't really need that, considering that everything has Rush anyways. Part of the appeal of Skater Bot is giving whatever you play Rush. The Replicating Menace is interesting because it gives like higher chance for you to win the brawl if you end up playing it and winning against the Chef Nomi. Purple could also simply just play the Replicating Menace now instead of 3 1/1 minions. But I think Militia Commanders is slightly better in this spot.
Okay then.
All right, putting him on a clock.
I guess Militia Commander has the 5 rush in case he doesn't have Chef Nomi, so
Yeah.
this opens up better possibilities.
5 points from the bomb, 1 point from the fatigue.
Right. And also, this is more power on the board, too, just because you have 3 1-1s as opposed to a single 2 whatever. So, definitely Purple trying to squeeze out every bit of damage here.
All right, so here's the play. Leroy, Shadow Step, Leroy, Shadow Step.
So many options.
So you
deal 14,
14.
Hope that he doesn't have any armor gain in hand, and you fill up his board so he can't play anything.
Oh, okay.
That's a hard play to make, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I gotta say, that one is like really ballsy. You could also still do that play after this if he does have a brawl.
You don't have time. Because you're taking 2 more fatigue, you know that there's 8 damage on board. In order to make that play, you have to be able to take 7 damage because you're leaving 7 1-1s on board. He doesn't have time. If he wanted to go for that play, he had to do it that turn. But if he brawls here and a 6/6 lives, he's got 7 on board with 12 from hand. So that's 19. But Purple has both answers. He's got the brawl and the shield block, so he had armor gain and brawl. So he had the check. So this play is better from ETC, I believe, because he had to have brawl and armor gain.
There's just so many ways for the Warrior to punish, it feels like.
Yeah.
Purple can actually go even on the brawl percentage here if he hero powers and also goes for the brawl. That's kind of funny.
He's gonna...
Yeah, this is better, I think. Because he still can respond with, like, execute. Oh my gosh, he wins the brawl! Oh wait, he can't execute because none of those minions were damaged.
I'm out of cards.
I don't know. I think ETC took a little too much here. Doesn't have enough life to play with. The Chef Nomi is great, but doesn't have time to play.
Yeah, he just dies the next turn. Not even a brawl needed for Purple because he has 4 damage on board, plus 3 from the fatigue. So Purple will continue the trend of Warrior winning every match so far in America's Grandmasters.
I mean, this is why people were afraid to bring Rogue, because of the possibility of running into the Warrior. It is something that happens. I still firmly believe Warrior beats the Rogue.
Well, I mean, Purple was a non-Ziliax top deck away from losing the first game. And
Yeah,
not having either Shield Slam or Shield Block or Brawl in his hand from losing this game. So they were on a razor's edge. It wasn't a stomp by any means.
Choose soon. Well played.
And ETC going through the calculation.
Can't really do anything.
Yep. And just 3 attacks plus the fatigue. That's going to do it.
All right. Okay. He's showing the second brawl just to kind of show you see that even if you had more life, gotcha anyways. And he even had like execute with the Eternium Rover.
And he won the second brawl as well.
All right. All right. Okay, man.
All right.
The victory lap is secured. And Purple cruises to a 2-0 victory over ETC as our rogue player, our rogue hero has fallen, but ETC gets a chance tomorrow, and Purple starts off his America's Grandmasters campaign with the win.
We have one more non-warrior champion to try and turn the tables in Monsanto with Mage, but so far PNC has fallen to warrior twice, and now ETC has fallen to warrior with his rogue. So are we going to end week 1 of America's Grandmasters with Warrior being the winner of every single match?
Well, in the Americas, yes. In Europe, Warrior is struggling a lot. It's like losing more.
It's because a lot of mages.
There's a lot of mages, and they're capitalizing onto it. And then in Asia Pacific, Warrior's going pretty even.
Okay.
By the nature of what's happening in Americas, Warrior is actually going mostly even because it's beating itself. But the 1 or 2 matches that it has against like Hunter and Rogue, it tends to be going in favor of Warrior.
Yeah. But still have Monsanto left to try and
to right the tide.
Yeah, he's got Mage. I think he's in a good spot. But
sure.
That's a conversation for later.
All right. Let's go ahead and talk to Purple and see how he's doing. Purple, can you hear us?
Hello, Dan. Hello, TJ. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Pretty fatigued. I was on call, like waiting for Firebat versus Frozen at the end, and I mean, it's interrupting my nap time, man. Rough.
So are you upset at them for that, or is it like, are you
Oh
mad
yeah,
at us?
I'm super mad at Firebat. Like he could have jammed so many no stormers from what I saw. Like he could really have sped things up.
Well, Purple, it ruined your nap time, but it aided in my nap time. So we had opposite
As well as
experiences.
fans' nap times around the world. Purple, talk to us a little bit about how Grandmasters is for you so far. You know, how are you enjoying the new system?
Well, I did what almost everyone else did and bring bomb wire, and hope sometimes your opponents order bombs and sometimes they don't, and that's basically the gist of it. It's my first time playing specialist today, so don't really know too much yet. I'll probably be better the week after, and then the week after that.
Yeah, and the week after, and you know, ad infinitum. Hopefully, is the case there. Real quick, are you playing the brawls because you're showing ETC that you know what you was in your hand out of courtesy, or are you just doing purple things there?
I was just testing my luck. That's it.
All right. Yeah. Well, you won
At the
both
start of the
though.
match, I saw the Armor Smith, and I thought I was going to lose to the damn Armor Smith.
Yeah.
And then I thought I was super unlucky, and then I was just testing some brawls out to see if my luck was cursed or not. Testing this new super account, you know.
Turns out it's about the average. You know?
Yeah, also testing to see if it's safe to go outside later, I guess.
Sure. All right, man. Congratulations on your victory, and we'll see you later this weekend for your second match.
Thank you.
All right, Purple, always fun to talk to and chat with, and yeah, even calling out Firebat a little bit. You know, one of his good buddies saying, you know what, I wish he jammed those nose durams a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, well, it seems like Purple is firing all cylinders, and he's out to an easy 2-0 victory over ETC. That's going to set up the next match, so don't go anywhere. We're 3 matches in, 2 more to go here in the second day of competition. More Hearthstone Grandmasters action right after this.